I have something that I want to share that I've been wanting to share on my channel for a very, very long time, probably about 2 years now, and I've not known how to do it.
I'm scared shitless of what people think. That's a watch that never saw the light of day.
I turned down $300,000 for one video.
I've connected with something that is so dark and so toxic and so... And it all just started, I'm getting horrible feelings telling the story, and I'm not sure if I can continue.
That's fucked up. How you guys doing? What's happening?
I feel better after the intro.
Yeah?
I feel bigged up.
Bigged up?
Yeah.
Is it like a false bigging up, or like you feel?
No, man, I believe you.
So the BS works?
When I watch Bark and Jack, I'm with that guy.
Oh, good
He's
man.
He's changing. He changes course mid-sentence. I'm like, he's sort of having a conversation.
Everything's 100%. Everything's awesome. Everything's killer.
No, I like this guy. I trust him. Do you watch Bark and Jack?
Who?
Fuck you, George.
Of course I do. Of course I do. I want to live in an ice cave with him.
Oh, man. Doesn't everyone?
That was my season 1 gag. Can you just do a new cave? Like do a bat cave or a lava cave.
The man cave.
Yeah, man cave.
So what have we got on the wrist, guys? What have we got on the wrist?
Okay.
I'm seeing some different things going on here.
Yeah, look, this is a no.
Off the wrist.
Will I ever get it right? This is. Do you guys know Alon B. Joseph, a chap from Ace Jewelers? It was the right.
Yes, he is a gentleman.
Yeah.
He is I did a podcast with him.
Nice
he
chap.
is the nicest guy. I absolutely love him.
He's done a series of Nomos special editions with Ace Jewelers and Nomos, and this is my favorite. It's a 36mm blue. It's known as the Ace times Nomos blue with that sort of flame orange, the burnt orange, and that is actually in reference to the national colours of Holland, the Netherlands. So yeah, it's the only 36mm modern watch I own, and when I put it on, I enjoy that because it's very slight on the wrist, and I don't know. What do you think? I've got a 7-inch wrist. Do you think this is doable?
I think it's definitely doable. This is going back to your tank size. This is exactly the same. This watch suits you. I think it's a great flex of a limited edition as well.
It is. It's lovely.
I think it's what. And
Nomos is killer, right?
This is.
That's you on a apart from the colours.
You're feeling some feelings.
I'm feeling some feelings. I'm a big Nomos fan. I'm not a massive fan of. From an ownership perspective of this styling, but this case, oh dude, look at that. But I feel like I'm trying to show the wrong camera, but that looks...
Keep twisting it to get that flare off.
Grand. Oh, I like the flares.
What could you not like about that colourway? It's like a midnight and then an orange.
No, but it's not him colourway.
No,
it's too exciting.
It's too vibrant.
It's a colourway.
It's like you lost me at colour.
No, but you know what I mean. It's like if it was white with black numerals, you'd be like
$2 grand.
Look, but it's
and Nomos is
my favourite Nomos is the grey dial.
What a surprise! The Hideki one?
No, this it's one of their normal editions. These aren't. I mean, it's over 1,000. This is what, 2,000?
I don't even remember.
But this finishing is.
Yeah.
Let's ask the master watchmaker. Maybe he can look it up. But it's really well priced, and Nomos are always punching above their weight.
Love that.
What's that? 3,000. 4,000. 1,300.
13.
I will take 3, thank you. Guess what, boys? I bought you Christmas presents.
Shit, that's incredible.
1,300.
Sorry, excuse me.
Wow, this has kind of hijacked the episode. How do you feel about that, Alon?
I might have a new watch tomorrow.
Yeah. I love wearing this watch because when you...
Euros as well.
Euro,
Wait,
yeah.
Well, that's not good for us.
That's like, what, £1,800 then?
But I'm a 7-inch wrist guy. I'm a 40mm watch guy, and I put this on as like a holiday.
That's cool.
I love Nomos.
That's
I think
great.
It's a very
Yeah, that's me.
What have you got, George?
I have got a Unimatic.
Take it off the wrist.
Okay, yeah, well, it looks better on the wrist to start off with, okay?
Yeah, that's true. It's a NATO.
It's a NATO strap. There is other NATO straps out there. This is the best one. No, sorry. This is a Unimatic. This is done with Hisnabati. It is a Disney Hisnabati Unimatic. It was, when it came out, I was in Disneyland with the kids, and I was just like, I have to have it. And
Tile is lovely and silvery. It's got a really lovely silver texture.
and David from Heissenabati, the CEO of Heissenabati, is just such a cool dude. And what he did with this, with the guys at Unimatic, I just love this watch, and it just makes me smile. It's one of those. It came in a real kind of hard case, and I just was like, actually, Unimatic have done some really awesome stuff. I had the Saudi Arabia one, and
that's a solid click.
Feel that. It's really tense.
There's something that feels right about it, and it's a good weight, and I don't know, it's just different, and so for me, this is a watch that
it's very Bamford. It's entirely Bamford.
But the thing is, I don't think you thought I would have one, and then, I think when we. Well, it's kind of anyway. I love this watch, and it makes me smile. And it arrived a few days ago, and it's really been one of those that I've been wanting on my wrist.
That's very smart.
Awesome.
Disney Flex as well.
Bucks.
So I've got a very colourful Moonswatch, which has a stuck pusher because I had to super glue it back on again, and this is on the Bark and Jack tan native strap. But for me, as Captain Boring. This is my kind of colourway.
It's not boring.
No, it's not boring.
See, for me, it's not boring, and I think also you putting it on that
Happy
strap.
days.
No, but I also love
He knows how to tune me up, doesn't he?
No, but I love the webbing on that strap. I think if you'd had it in the regular strap on that, I would have just gone, you're a strap on. That really is.
I don't want to rain on your love in parade, but when someone describes something as boring, they often say it's a little beige. And that's like double beige.
Yeah, but that's desert.
Have you seen the shirt you're wearing?
This is olive.
Have you been enlisted?
Khaki.
Well,
It's not beige. Are you colourblind?
no, but the point is,
green.
it's a desaturated colour.
Oh, come on, broad.
Together,
shot.
we're off to.
See,
we won't get
for
political.
me, this is when you think the Mojave Desert, when that came out, that was, and I can never say it right.
know.
That was the ultimate cool flex watch. That was fucking cool, and this for me.
That's
is
exactly
the
what I
colourway.
said.
I love that, but I like.
Yeah.
It on that strap, on that NATO, because for me, I didn't like it on the strap that it came with.
No.
I thought it was shite.
The own straps are rubbish.
But I like that.
Right, guys, it is about effing time. We talk about our dark secrets.
Okay.
So this is.
What do you mean by that? About like sexually or?
It's yes for you.
Okay.
Yes.
No, please no.
All right. Let me get my notes.
I've read your DMs and there's some weird shit in there. So no, this is it's kind of a bit of a
What
confession.
am I doing here?
It's a bit of a exactly what are we doing here? It's a bit of a confession time, a bit of an opening up, a bit of a therapy session.
Can I tell the story of how this came about? We're in the green room. Just quickly. I'm not jacking this.
Who's running this?
No, I want to give the backstory because we had this whole season 2 agenda and all these things lined up, and then we're in the green room and we were like, we should just tell stories in this episode.
Yeah.
It was your idea.
It was your fucking idea, but I'll take credit for it. So, but it turns out we have stories, and I feel like this session is going to be one of our therapy sessions. It's sort of time to share stuff. I have something that I want to share that I've been wanting to share on my channel for a very, very long time, probably about 2 years now, and I've not known how to do it. And this is, for me, my time to share my story.
So this is the ultimate therapy session.
This is the ultimate.
And what about you? Because we did a little discussion around the green room, and I said, well, for this to work, we need a dark secret, and I shared mine, which I actually, if you're an avid About Effing Time watcher, you will have seen a live stream where this came up very briefly, and then everyone just said, stop, save it for an episode, and I said, what is your dark secret? Do you have one? And you don't have to answer now, but then...
No, I've got a dark secret, but it's like two. There's two sides to my dark secret, and both of them are failures.
Okay.
And I think that's quite I think in life you have these things, and each of us has got these things where we're like, should we, shouldn't we? and that's where I think we all sit. That's
where we lay our hands.
I feel like we've gone down in tone, and we're all kind of like,
we can lean into it.
You know, I feel like Sigmund Freud should be here and kind of going.
But this is it. Is we're opening up, and I feel like that's healthy. I've certainly got stuff I want to go for myself. George, I think you should go first, because
you both of you said it's the most boring out of the Dark Secret.
That's absolute bullshit.
That is
That's literally the opposite.
You
from
just
what
didn't
we
give
said.
us much, and that's okay. But
Okay,
before we go into it, though, can we mention why, can we thank the people that...
20 years ago, next year, I celebrate 20-year anniversary of Banff Watch Department.
Wow.
I feel really old now. But anyway, 20 years. And for me, we started the business, and it was all about personalisation and all those things. But I also wanted to start my own watch. And so you think Bremont celebrated 20 years, roughly, and we're celebrating 20 years this year. And so we would have started out at the same time. I was scared of what people would think. I was scared. There was all this thing about you've got money and you're just building a watch. This is the thing, and I went to 2 or 3 designers, 2 or 3 people external to say, and the prices were astronomical. I was like,
let's set a scene here. This is early 2000s.
Yeah.
This is, microbrand wasn't a word.
Right. And so for me, I did the design, I did the whole thing, and I was like, that's a watch I'd like. But what happened was I realized I couldn't do it. There was no way I could do it cost effectively, doing it in the way I wanted to do it, right movements, all these different things. I was going down these disgusting rabbit holes of different people. I flew over to Switzerland, and there was someone talking to me about movements, and you have to have this type of movement because unless you're a serious watch, and I was getting ripped off. I realized that when I was going down this rabbit hole, I was going to be in debt for a hell of a lot of money, and not having a product that, and this is in life, I'm always scared of when I put out a product. I'm always scared of what will people think, what will be that scenario. So I'm always on that kind of cusp of like going.
Do you still feel that today, 20 years on?
No, I'll tell you the before and after. So the first design I did, and
So this is 2002.
2002, and I'm putting it down here. This is the only thing, and this lived on my. You can see there's pinholes in the top because I ripped this off my wall. This was to tell me what really. This is my first design process. This was watches I liked, and I put them together, and I wanted to have this was my design. This was what I wanted as my watch.
Where did you get your elements? Talk us
So there was different things. So Roger Debris was the chamfered down because
the Excalibur.
The Excalibur, because when I first saw the Excalibur, I really loved it. The date wheel, for me, I always loved this open date wheel, skeletonized date wheel. Tachometer, that for me came from a Speedmaster. I always loved.
Is that from Mille Miglia?
No, but could have been. The chronograph, I always wanted the chronograph, floating chronographs, sword hands.
So is that a sapphire dial with the chronographs on? Wow.
Painted on, and this was my first design. And you can see I didn't even put the chrono hands in, because what I wanted to do is I wanted them just integrated, slight little puff, and that was it. And so that was my first design. Now, when I was looking at this, and I've even got the case. So this was a carbon fiber.
Can I just ask a really geeky design question? Are these subdial register hands on the screw points that screw that logo piece in? That's genius. Do you see it hides?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So because it seems like that's a screw point.
So anyway, so this was our first design. This was the case. So it's a titanium and carbon fiber integrated case. So titanium core with a carbon fiber external. And so that was the case of it. And I just had to find
and
that.
What was with the numeral? Is the orange?
The orange is a luminous, and they were core luminous.
The 4.5 is the date.
That's the date, and it was lit up behind in orange. So these were
skeletonized, and then there's that.
Yeah. So, and that was the case. So it's a forged carbon with a titanium core, pushed extruded
Holy
titanium core,
moly.
skeletonized. So I know you say you love it, but for me, this didn't. It's just every side of it didn't work. The cost of it, retail cost. We're looking at minimum 20 grand, and
is that because of what was causing it to be so expensive?
case alone was something like 3 grand, 4 grand, and then the movement was X amount, then the dial was X amount. It literally was just, and everyone was like this, going to work with me on it. And I'm getting real kind of negative things on where this is like one of those things where I'm getting cold sweats. This was the thing that why I put it up on my wall. It's like we talk about Frankenstein and Freight watches. There's some that sit in my safe because they were that way. This sits on my wall to tell me sometimes you've got to respect your gut and go, just step away, don't do this.
So what about this didn't work for you when you looked at it objectively?
Retail cost.
Just cost.
Retail cost. I was like, would I pay that for that?
Right.
Would the sum of the parts? Would I pay that for that? I look
What
at.
movement was going to be in the 20K watch?
I can't remember what we were doing. I think it was Dupree, or it was a real kind of. It was the same one that Richard Mill used to use. It was the people Hermes. I can't remember who it was, but we went to see them, and we were going to buy this movement, and we would go. And literally, we were in the process of doing that. I'd committed to the cases. The case had made in the UK.
Right.
So it was all F1 technology. But you think even the snub nose crown guard, lugs.
Horns,
It was, but the whole thing was my kind of idea. Now that's 20 years ago, and that's why Bamford London faultingly started, because I was constantly wanting to do my own watch, but never having the confidence. And I know I seem like I've got tons of confidence. I don't have confidence on these things. I'm always worried, is this going to work? Is it, like the Mayfair, when we started out doing the Mayfair, it was one of those things where, this was a service watch. And then people said, I want to buy it. So then I was like, whoa, I'm off to the races. And then the GMT, when I did a prototype of the GMT, it's why I have quite a few prototypes in here, because I show you guys and say, what do you think? Because I'm scared shitless of what people think. Right. So for me, that was kind of like that first, when you're saying Dark Secret, that's a watch that never saw the light of day. Never.
So what was the gap between that agonising indecision or the lack of pulling the trigger 20 years ago to the first model? How many years was there between this intention and the fruition?
I'd probably say so. 13 years after.
Oh wow!
And you thought about it all the time?
I've been thinking about designing watches these are itches to scratch. We were talking about, if you could be a CEO for a day or something like that. It's one of those things. It's the itch to scratch. I've always wanted to design watches. I love it when brands come along to me and say, hey, do an iteration on this, do something like that. Why have I done the GMT? Why have I done the B347? Because that is me scratching this itch and doing a watch I want. But also knowing enough, I go to enough people to go, what do you think? It's almost like, please tell me what you think before we go into it, because I'm worried about packaging. I'm worried about where it's seen. Now I know in life we have trolls, and you've got to get these people that will give you negative. But when I was doing that, there was no negative. I was just more concerned. This little rich person.
Intense, yeah.
But I was like, this little rich person doing a watch. How the fuck does he know what he's talking about? So for me, that was always my negative. It was always like in the back of my mind. It was like, you've just got to prove your point. You've got to get going on this. And then I did feel like I was being ripped off. I felt like I was totally ripped off. And that's kind of where I sit now, is that, I wanted to tell you two things that make me feel worried, because I've got the same scenario that's happening to me for the 20th anniversary of my business. And this is a watch I want to create, but I'm not creating, and my watchmakers want to create. and I'm not creating. And it's something that, because I'm worried about where it will go, I'm worried, can we get the price right? And we can't. And it's all my next step. So this is a watch that hasn't seen the light of day.
Before we go on, Adrian, you haven't responded to this. I'll quickly summarise for me. The thing I like about this that lights my imagination is the dimensionality of the case, like the fact that there's depth in the case, the fact that there's so many layers to the dial, the fact that there's ingenious little engineering touches, and the fact that I can't really think of anything that it's like. There are obviously lots of inspirations mashed up into this, but there's a lot that I like here. I would definitely grade this well as a concept that I think on the wrist, and certainly in different lighting conditions, given that you've got a sapphire, you've got a floating dial as well as this really structural rayor. I find this a really interesting proposition. Adrian, what do you think?
I think, bizarrely, you could have put this piece of paper down and said, this is what I want to do today. I'm seeing these design touches in watches right now. The sapphire dial, the see-through, the not skeletonized, but the opaqueness, the monotone design with the touches of color. So it's very interesting that this is a 20-year-old design, which works right now, and also it's nice to see that I can see this as a Bamford design, because I can see what you've done subsequently. I can see how this is you.
But look, the case is too big. There's so many. If you feel there's so many things. Look,
but also, I can hear the lessons that you learn when you've gone through this. That you can dream of amazing cases, and a lot of people criticize other watch brands. Oh, this watch is far too expensive. Yeah, maybe you can find another watch of the same movement, but the case is such an expensive element, and that's probably a lesson that you learn from this.
Moon.
Exactly. You're not going for steel. You've gone straight away to the weird.
This doesn't exist. I've never seen a case that
that's why you have to go to Formula One's
fibre
head
and
level.
titanium.
But if you look at inside here, that's the only way you can see is just in there. You can see
because the B347 is pure forged carbon, right?
Forged
There's
carbon.
no titanium.
No, there's a steel core to it, but you can see inside there.
Yeah.
This is titanium. But the B347 at the price makes sense.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Is this now doesn't make sense?
Still doesn't
so
make
for
sense.
me, it doesn't make sense even today's standards on the so. It's my lesson. I have these things that are kind of my totem poles in my life of things that I'm like, I can't. So you asked me to bring something. It's not, I have massive fear about launching.
So the
anything.
darkness in this secret is the darkness of self-doubt.
Oh yeah, and
I think that the darkest part is to come.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what you.
Sorry to interrupt that,
No,
but
no.
I just wanted Adrian's feedback because you were quite quiet on it.
Now, the thing I'm going to say to you is, so the darkness is yet to come because I have self-doubt still to this day. And I have self-doubt, and the reason why I have self-doubt, this is a watch I want to create. I want to create it because I want to create it. I want it for me, it's something I want. But I don't think we're going to do it. My watchmakers want to do it, and this is my design of my 20th anniversary watch. The watch I was like, I really wanted to do a 3-part case, titanium and tantalum. It was a real next stage.
Oh, wow.
And cost-wise has become prohibitive for me. And it is something.
So is this?
It's a 2-part case.
What's the bezel?
So what's the bezel?
So that's a black titanium.
Black titanium bezel, and the
probably
tantalum.
So it's tantalum and titanium, but with the core pushers.
Tantalum's a lovely metal.
PVD blue dial.
And is that a burst?
Yeah. And we've gone down the route. We were going to buy movements. I was going to do I think it was 20 pieces, looking at the whole thing. Movement came in at $4,500, and I just went, I can't justify what we need to do to make the whole thing a core. I even designed the packaging. I've done the whole thing as an experiment, not as an experiment. I've done how we market it, because we weren't going to market it. This was just going to be sent out with images of the watches to our top 20 customers and say, you've been selected to buy this watch. And that's what I was going to do for this as my anniversary 20th.
I think you've got 20 mates who.
No, I have, but in my
What
mind.
stopped you though?
So what stopped me is cost. The cost of doing it is a lot. We can afford it, but the cost of doing it is a lot. But the other thing is, I don't want people to forced to buy.
Did you feel that it was vanity? A little bit of vanity?
Totally. It's the watch I want. I wanted Bamford Watch Department. This is Bamford Watch Department. This is kind of like coming into that world. It's Bamford London sits below £4,000. This is you're coming up big strong. This has got to be everything. Even the packaging. We designed this wonderful packaging. Everything was so just pure, and. This is, I thought this was going to be the next stage of Bamford Watch Department of personalisation for customers. And it's something that's in the back of my mind I want to do. But this is the thing like that has stopped me. And
have you completely put a pin in this?
I had to put a pin in it last week.
Wow.
And the reason why I had to put a pin in it is because I can't get the movements in time now.
Right.
So I've and ahed for months. I mean, really, to my watchmaker's chagrin, and I love that word. So but them screaming and shouting at me, we should fucking do this, George. Just shut up and do it. And I'm just like, I don't know.
What was the price point?
We were thinking. Look, I wanted it at 7.5. I wanted it to come in. That was if we could deliver it for 7.5. Boom, done. But
the movement was $4,000.
$4,000, so we can't do it for 7.5.
Wow.
So that's when I go to you and go, we can't do it.
So is this the movement that's in like a Mont Blanc perpetual calendar?
This is, it's a modular that fits onto another movement. It's a real kind of like, we went top bollocks on everything. We went really top shelf on everything I could, from case finishing to, this is Swiss. We were doing everything to glass case back, but it was going to be a smoked glass case back. The rotor is, everything was like 20th anniversary, bang, bang, bang. And I've got it all planned. I know we could deliver, but I'm not going to deliver because I'm just going, okay, this doesn't work. So even like, the Illuminous battens, what did I want on the Illuminous battens? It was like every little bit of what could we do. And anyway, even down to this, there was going to be a star that was going to be an aqua blue star because I wanted aqua blue.
I love the little touches of aqua blue.
And
so subtle.
I love perpetual calendar, and as I've said in one or two of the other episodes, I talk about the IWC perpetual calendar, and I loved how that was, and so I always it's something.
I can't think of a PC less than that, sort of like 15 and above.
Well, we were looking at 18, 19, and I just am like. The other thing is I've got fear of the future at the moment, and so I'm all kind of like.
What do you mean?
I think to myself is potentially, we can talk about recession, we can talk about economy, we can talk about all these things, and also the other thing is watch being stolen, all of this. I just, for me, this is one of those that
timing isn't right.
I don't think it feels right. So I think we will do something, but it's not going to be in this way. This for me.
I feel sad for you, George, because I can feel your passion and your love for this project.
I can feel the sadness
and how far you've come. And this is a very classy design. I mean, look at these curves, and I love tantalums, and I've said it. The tantalums are awesome.
What is tantalum?
So it's titanium, but it's a next stage on.
But it's a very, very dark metal, and it's got a very mysterious air about it.
But even if I should show you, I'll show you some designs. But even on the side of it, it's got this wonderful curve, and you see the black with the tantalum with the black, and you just see side on. And there's some really sexy things about this 3-part case, but I can then launch something else because I'm not focusing on this.
Sure.
So for me, I've got other projects that I'm hoping. This for me is one of those that it's also asking my customers for something. I don't know. I just think that you can be questioned. You can be, look, I want the watch, but maybe it's our 30th anniversary. You know, maybe I come back to it like that and go, that was, but to question to myself and stop it from even prototyping. I've prototyped packaging, I've prototyped straps. You know, we've gone for these straps are all like the top of the top of the top eco straps, but they are like literally rocking horse shit on everything, and everything inside. You know, anyway, but because I wanted to do it right, and yes, vanity. That's the problem.
You fear that there's vanity
sanity has taken over. I always say vanity versus sanity. Sanity takes over and it just goes, hey.
Because what I take from this, Adrian, you made a good point. I mean, you can feel a lot of emotions from that, George. But what I take from this is that I'm looking at all these successes. They're in my peripheral vision. I'm looking at the Aqua Racer sold out. I'm looking at this sold out. I'm looking at all these different things, the watches that very hard to get and very, very highly priced over retail. It doesn't change that internal doubt for you. And I think it's an interesting mark of a successful person. And again, not to flatter you, but I think that just that sense of always being uncertain about whether the next one will maintain, I think that's interesting, isn't it? Like there's a real common denominator with successful people.
There was a definite change in your tone when you said sanity comes in. Mm-hmm. Sanity versus vanity. The way you phrased that and the way you casted those aside, that was your experience talking. Mm-hmm. And you're going with your gut. And
you trust it.
Immediately then, my feeling changed from, I feel sorry for George, I want George to do this, to, no, George knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's
doing. He's on it.
But hey, I'd love to know from you guys, if you know, I'd love to know what you think. You know, if we're doing audience questions, I'd love to know, put your comments below. I'd love to know what you think, because, you know, my gut feels something, but I'd love to know what you think.
Wow, that was
okay.
Pretty
Dark and stormy. Who's next? And thank fuck I've got that off my shoulders.
George,
I feel like we're all at a diving board and George is gone, and now I was like, I'm glad he went first, but now I'm like, shit, now it's our turn.
George, that was fascinating taking us down that journey.
And again, for people watching this thinking we're old mates that knock around at the pub on weekends, our whole relationship has happened pretty much in this room.
Yes.
And pretty much everything we know about each other has happened either here or on Zoom calls or in the green room, very briefly, because Mr. Bamford here doesn't like to rehearse, doesn't like to be overly planned, doesn't like to overthink things, wants to go and start. Yeah. So that has created this friendship that's somewhat been public from day one. So I would just like to say that all of this is a surprise to us. I didn't even know about the existence of these things. And I think this dark secret idea has legs. Simon, you tell me that I don't need a winder, I need a wolf. It's written everywhere. It's a very catchy campaign.
Yes.
That's a big call. What do you mean by that?
Well, we are the best. You have to think you're the best, don't you?
Yeah. No,
so
we are the best.
start with that. We feel
we're
that.
We're the biggest watch podcast in the Mariana Trench.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll swim alongside you down there then, sir. Anyway, the idea of building a watch winder that does what it should do was what I started with 25 years ago. So there were watch winders out there, but they weren't intelligent. That meant having a computer chip inside, tick that box. It counts turns per day, tick that box. Can start and stop where you want it to. Has a dynamic cuff, which we haven't looked at yet, which means any size band, metal, strap, whatever, will go on the dynamic cuff.
That's more
You don't need a watch winder.
Yeah.
You need a wolf.
We need a wolf in our lives. You need this winder. We have this winder available. Okay.
So my darkest watch secret is I turned down $300,000. $300,000 for one video. And
Sorry?
so
What the
I assume most people who watch this will know what I do. I run a YouTube channel, and YouTubers have...
You've actually written 300,000 down here.
300,000.
And he's put the dollar sign.
Is that in like lira or something? Or
300,000 US dollars.
US dollars. Which is about 2 million Australian dollars.
And as a YouTuber or anyone in social media, you get pitched ideas or pitched business opportunities to shill stuff, to sell stuff. But my whole premise is I don't take money from watch companies to make my content, but I do take money from watch-related companies, whether they're dealers or companies that provide services. But a watch brand themselves, I don't take money from. This guy emailed me. I get emailed all the time saying, "Oh, but can you talk about this thing? We'll pay you to do that." So I usually ignore it. For some reason, I replied to this guy and I said, "I just wanted to find out what the deal was, because I know a lot of people do this within the industry, but also on YouTube." So I replied and said, "Tell me more about what you're doing." And he said, "Well, I'm free now. Do you want to jump on a Zoom call?" So, cool, let's jump on a Zoom call. I was in London doing shooting for other watches. Jumped to the Zoom call with this very, very salesy guy, and he's basically, I'm not going to name any names, I don't want to get sued, but he's basically a distributor for micro brands in America. And these are not unknown micro brands. These are micro brands that a lot of people talk about. And he says, I want to pitch you a video. I'm going to send you some watches, a cluster of watches from the same company, and I want you to do a video on them. Right, okay. So I humoured him. I went along with the conversation. And I gave him my normal rate for doing a video. And he said, is that it? Let's talk then. What are you talking about? So, well, if I give you a commission, based on your average views, based on the interaction that you get with your audience, a conservative estimate would be, we'd give you a commission of $300,000. And I laughed. I thought, that's fucking ridiculous.
But that's dependent on sales. So this isn't
Dependent on
check.
sales.
Yeah.
And my premise is always, even when I work with watch dealers, I don't do commission. My belief is I have a platform. If you want access to my platform, you pay for it. If people buy from you, that's down to your business, not mine. And so I said to him, I don't do commission. If you think a conservative estimate is $300,000, I'll tell you what, you give me $150,000 in cash. You keep whatever extra commission there is, and I'll do the video. And he said to me, are you sure? Are you sure you want to turn down that sort of money? I said, yeah. You give me $150,000 cash, I'll do the video. You keep the rest of the profits.
Which video is this of yours?
And he said, deal. We'll do that.
Okay.
I never replied to any further emails. Didn't take any more calls from him. It blew my mind. I never.
You didn't take any.
I didn't do the video.
What? But for 150, that's life-changing money.
It is life-changing money. My wife was furious.
I was about to ask, did you tell your wife? But now you're like, no, she was furious. So
I mean, obviously, I have less morals than you, because I'm thinking distributor for micro brands, getting paid 150.
The big challenge was.
What was the issue?
The issue was the video can't be an advert.
Oh, you've got to conceal it.
You got to, this has to be a genuine
You have
review.
to say that you love all this stuff.
You have to say that you like this stuff.
Oh.
One, I wouldn't have done it even for an advert. But two,
selling your soul.
You're selling your soul. And immediately, my thought isn't $150,000 for one video. It was $150,000 to destroy my channel. And my channel's worth fuck more than that. And emotionally and financially. And so I just thought, no. When I think about that amount of money, I think, whoa.
How do you feel now in your telling that story? Is it a sense of relief or a sense of...
It's a sense of relief, but it's also an annoyance that there is that much money out there, and two, I know this money's going out. I know people are making this content and getting that money.
And not declaring it.
Not declaring it. In the UK, that is factually illegal to do an advert without it being put out there. So yeah, that's my darkest secret.
Wow.
And it drives me nuts, because I know for someone who's really trying to push their business and desperate not to take investment from other people, needing to put hard money down to drive what I'm doing, that money could have propelled. I mean, that's investment grade money.
It is. As you said, life-changing money, mortgage-changing money.
Yeah.
You know, down payment on a house money.
Or buying a very nice office space and kitting it out with a team to help me do my shit. And it drives me nuts when I'm in my shitty little office. It's actually quite a nice office. But in my office, slaving away doing my own shit and just thinking, oh, I could have done something differently. But it's morals. It wasn't right.
I think a lot of people have seen your office. And if you like and subscribe, you'll see The Office. So I'm just kind of putting that there.
Is that an OnlyFans channel where it's like if you like and subscribe, you get access?
No,
to
because
The money's there. I'll do that.
That's different.
No, but you can see when you watch our therapy session because
Oh, yeah, good point.
because that's when you see his office. But you know, it is a life-changing amount. But I kind of love this is the sanity versus vanity.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know,
Perfect.
the vanity is like, hallelujah, I'm being recognised. 150 grand or 300 grand. Jesus Christ, that is you being recognised. That for me is like, wow. But the sanity comes in and goes, yeah, but I'll destroy my integrity. I'll do this, dun. And the thing is, in some ways, it's kind of like you getting over yourself to some degree to say, hey, I should be in another place. But
Yeah.
But you are absolutely right. It is sanity versus vanity. The vanity is, I could go get fucking Vacheron for that.
Yeah.
I could get the watches on my dream, or I could be sensible and pay off the mortgage. But you're right. It's sanity versus vanity. I feel good for getting that out.
have a sip of the Four Pillars.
4 pillars.
Damn. So you've both jumped off the diving board now. Guess that just leaves me.
You're right.
Adrian, thank you for that. And I think sometimes, you know, being in this industry and knowing how it operates, you know, sometimes it's a thin consolation to be virtuous and to be, but at other times it is just such a great thing to be in full control of your business, like we are too at Time and Tide. It's something that you're seeing big mastheads and big media titles get acquired and entirely bought, and you know there's all this clandestine stuff happening. And again, I don't want to wade into those waters because, you know, hey, you don't want to ever be too virtuous because if it had been, there's circumstances where you would have said, I will take that. And, you know, that maybe it wasn't the figure. Maybe the figure was higher. Whatever the case, you know, who knows where we'll stand in 5 years. But I think there is a sense of hearing that, I'm relieved because Buck and Jack continued. You've now joined up in this gang as an independent person. Time and Tide remains completely independent. Bamford is its own zeitgeist and force. I'm relieved because the fun stuff like this gets a lot harder. Gets nigh impossible when there are other interests because, you know, and we don't need to go into it, but certainly it's a different ball game when you take that devil's contract or whatever you want to call it, Robert Johnson at the Crossroads, you know, make me the best blues guitarist ever and I'll give you my soul, you know. I think that's I'm nervous now.
I have recently found one of my first watches. The problem is that the bezel's a bit fun. The trick is that you can just use things around the house. It is a shame that the bezel's a bit dodgy on this thing, but it will give me a chance to tell you guys about a bezel that isn't dodgy. GetBezel.com. Behind the very fancy branding and the slick website and the very easy to use app, there's a whole team of watch experts who are not only passionate about watches, they are incredibly knowledgeable about watches. Bear with me. These guys have over $220 million worth of watches, which makes me think we could be doing something else with these tools. So whether you're buying your first nice watch and you want a little bit of hand-holding along the way, they will do that. The most important part is the fact that they will authenticate every single watch that they sell. It's crucial to have a rubber-tipped whacker because you don't want to add extra dents into your watch. You don't want to scratch it unnecessarily. Now, the nice guys over at GetBezel have given us a discount code that we can give to you. Just use AET200 when you check out. You'll get $200 off your first order, which is pretty handy. Go to getbezel.com. Check your next watch.
You're up.
Over to you.
What's your darkest secret?
My darkest secret is, so rub the sweat off my palms. In about 2017, I decided that I'd had enough experience as a watch journalist, and I'd had enough, I suppose, insight into watchmaking, watch design, that I could do what you did, that I could create a watch. However, unlike you, I was constantly getting emails from China, from Chinese manufacturers, case manufacturers, dial manufacturers. Somehow, info at Time and Tide Watches became just one of these spam targets. So for even from 2014, I was getting these emails, but I was just deleting them. Didn't even think twice about them. And then there was an email that got through that just said, let us build a watch for you. Just tell us, and again in broken English, but tell us what you'd like to see that doesn't exist. Okay. And it was quite a good pitch email. And I was just thinking, let's just play. You know, I would like to see a watch with a tropical dial, a ghost bezel. I'd like to see a red pip and again, I'm describing a lot of watches right now, but this is 5 years ago, before this was even more popularized. I'd like to see all these touches that I put together and described it. And then about a week later, ding, email comes up. What about something like this? And it was actually pretty close. It was pretty good to what I'd imagined. And again, this 5 years ago, many of the micro brands we know and love, like we determined last night at dinner with Richard from Studio Underdog, that he's 18 months old as a business. So this is 3.5 times the length of time that he's been around ago. So we're talking a long time ago. So I started to the vanity of Andrew, that's going to work. That's a nice looking watch. So then I started thinking of a name. I came up with a name, Hustle Watch. And then on the back, I tell not a word of a lie. On the back of the case, on the clear case back, which is sapphire crystal, it said,
No way.
it did, Hustle Watch. And the whole idea was that you've got to hustle and time is running out. So this watch is a reminder that you need to get going. So I had a concept, I had a design that was increasingly attractive, and I had this watchmaker in China, or this watch manufacturer, prepared to make it for, I think, I'm trying to remember the numbers now, and I'm going to get them wrong, but it was around about $70 US. Yeah.
So what was the rest of the watch like?
So
Was it sports?
it was a mechanical movement.
Right.
And again, I hadn't seen the prototype at that
Seagull.
point. It was probably a Seagull or a Seagull derivative. Obviously time only, and it was water resistant to 300 meters.
Ooh,
So
right.
it claimed.
okay.
So again, who would know? So this actually started to, and because I just said, okay, and they said, please tell us if you'd like to send a prototype, because here's some early, they'd started to piece together the components, including a dial, and they had images of dials. So this thing just had this strange momentum.
Down a rabbit hole.
And it was, they were facilitating everything because they'd identified that I was a sales target and that Time and Tide would have a platform. There'd be enough in it for us for this to happen.
Yeah.
So it started to happen. And then I started to, and this is where the story gets dark. I was looking at the breakdown of components, the cost to us to make the watch, what we could potentially sell it for. And there was enormous upside there. At that point in time, I'm trying to remember the name of the watch. There were only a handful of micro brands that were selling watches around that $400-500 US mark.
Right.
And again, they were that Unimatic style. I don't know if you remember the name of the brand. I can't remember. It was really minimal. It was a dive watch that had a similar. It was one of the earliest micro brands that I can recall from that period. But it was going to compete at a $400-500 mark. So I had a 400% markup, 500% markup on this watch. I'm thinking, that's going to work. And we just used the platform, potentially, announce it as a Time and Tide watch. We hadn't really thought through too much beyond that. But then I started having discussions with the different people involved on the team that were making it. And I'm just looking at, and the numbers just didn't add up. Like, I'm just thinking, how is this possible? And then through the discussions I was having with the manufacturing team, I'm saying, oh no, that dial's not right, and I started getting into the nitty gritty. I started realizing that these people weren't being paid very much at all. And that there was I just started getting, and then the images of the dials in the manufacture, that you'd suddenly see a bit of the background and see the environment. And I'm sort of getting horrible feelings as I talk about it. But this was not a Swiss watchmaking environment.
Like a sweatshop.
This was
environment.
And then I started seeing the size of the people that were blurry in the background, and I'm like, it all just started. I'm getting horrible feelings telling the story, and I'm not sure if I can continue.
That's fucked up.
It's you're seeing children.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the price that the watch was being pitched to me at, and the prototype arrives, because by now this is all starting to feel,
It's feeling dark.
this is dark. This whole, how this
dark.
could be done for $70, $80, how this could be, because again, that's the whole watch with a 316L steel. So 316L steel case, certified, 316L steel bracelet, you know, really, really cheap. And by the time it got to me, I'm starting to lose sleep. I'm starting to think, I've somehow, like dark web stuff, like I've connected with something that is so dark and so toxic and so much bigger than
Feeling like
me.
you're becoming part of it as well, because it's.
I have now
within you.
caused
Yes.
so the perpetuation of this. And by the time it reached me, I could barely touch it. And look, the thing was, right, it was a really good watch in terms of a $400 watch.
Yeah.
The finishing was good. The way they'd sort of granulated the dial to emulate a tropical dial, so it wasn't just a matte black, desaturated black. It had that sort of yacht mastery desaturated look with a bit of texture to it. They had really nailed it. Oxblood text and then the sapphire crystal was, and again, I might be getting it. It's not more than $100 at cost to make this. So. And also they'd sent a couple of prototypes. One was they'd sent them at the same time and said which one of these, and there was inconsistencies, and you could see through. Like, it obviously wasn't a perfect quality product, but it was more that when that arrived, and even the air inside the envelope, I was just like, this is something that is, I am ashamed of myself for even taking it this far, and. That was the end of Hustle Watch. That was the end of TikTok motherfucker on the case back. That was the end of the concept. And I touched something very dark about micro brands.
So, a question for you: do you think, to some way, if I told you red cars are in trend, and you only see red cars on the road, do you think, to some degree, I'm not saying, but when you started seeing down this path, do you think sometimes you saw further down? It's like, you know, like if my kids are worried about doors being open in their bedroom because they're scared.
The Jungian thing where you make a connection with that and you see more of it.
And that's where I'm just kind of asking, because, you know...
In what sense?
I don't know, you know, when you're saying about size of people and things like that, you know, I don't know. Look, for me, it is one of the darkest paths, is this kind of... the backbone of a lot of the American economy, clothing, everything. There is this dark path.
Apple products, you know, there's been a lot of discussion about this.
Well, recently, I mean, they've locked down Foxconn, so there is some things where, and there is other places. But what I'm saying is, do you think that potentially you saw red cars, you know, and
you think I imagined it?
No, I'm not saying imagine it, but I'm just saying is there is a dark path on this. There is the darkness was there, but I'm wondering, and that's
If you're asking me, do I have conclusive proof that I was buying a watch from a sweatshop? No, I do not.
The thing I feel is, if you'd gone down this route and you'd wanted to, I would have gone there. I would have gone and seen them and walked the path. That maybe is one side of it.
I think there was just something, and it wasn't
Something
just that
dodgy
image
about.
where I could tell there were children in the background, and that there was...
So you could tell, okay,
well,
so...
And again, it's not a crisp image, but it's just, you put together the costs. You put together these elements, and when you start getting close, and you put together the tone of certain emails with parts of the manufacturing chain, and I could just tell it was that sense of opening a closet and getting a feeling of something inside, and then closing it. And again, my instincts might have been completely wrong. You know, the photo might have just misrepresented what was there, but certainly we know for a fact that this surging trend of micro brands, and the fact that you can have a watch. Again, no aspersions on Richard Bank from Studio Underdog, but you can be out there in a matter of months because of the supply chain and the number of manufacturers and producers in China that are making it very easy to create things at lightning speed. So there's just the proliferation of micro brands. There's an underbelly to it. I don't necessarily want to go into that in more detail. No, but I touched it.
There's also another element of it. That's a lot of these micro brands are legit in what they're doing. There's a fake watch industry.
Yeah.
Well, that's
that is
another day.
and-
That's
and
another subject.
Fake products are against the rules. If they're breaking one rule, they're probably likely breaking another rule.
Yeah.
So
And I would imagine, I would say with 100% certainty that same factory was involved in, obviously in that industry.
Okay, so that's why I was asking these questions, is just more because I'm in fear of all of this when you look at supply chain. You know, what COVID has done for all of us is to analyze every supply chain. You know, this whole thing about the fake eco things and the fake, you know, we're all in this way of kind of going, hey, we're whiter than whiter. I would say to you is every supply chain is fraught with something.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe I blanched, and maybe I should have just held my nerve, and should have gone and seen it.
I'm desperate to see this watch because I want to just see what your vision.
Well, the funny thing is, right? So it looks a lot like the Hodinkee Oris Diver 65, the desaturated black dial, the ghost bezel. There is no red, but the case design, it looks. So when the Diver 65 came out, I'm going to admit something that is. I'm not proud of this either. I kicked myself. I should have found another way. Because and again, it's easy to say that. It's very easy to say, oh, that's exactly the watch I would have made back in 2017. I've got the watch. It's really similar. And so this predates that model by years. And all of the elements that made the Ghost or whatever that Hodinkee model is a great watch were in this watch. So there is a sense of, again, you know, maybe when a watch appears that's some of your designs, you think, okay, that validates to a point what I was doing, but do I regret not continuing down that when my instincts were screaming at me that, you know, you cannot fool yourself, Andrew, at that price. Yeah. Because, okay, the movement itself, you know, might cost $15, but there's 316L steel. There's a 316L steel bracelet that weighs
in your
X.
mind.
Let me just add up these things.
In your mind,
in my mind, I knew that I was going to be part of the exploitation.
Look, I think it's commendable.
Am I done? Can I just,
No, I think it's commendable what you said, and I sounded kind of mean of analysing. It's not that. It's just because I wanted to see this. I wanted to.
You make a good point. And look, did I join the dots on something that might have not been there?
No, but it's your moral compass. It's all of our moral compass. You know, the thing is,
compass is strong.
Vanity versus sanity. The sanity took over. Vanity versus sanity. Vanity. The thing is, sanity took over and just went, hey, this doesn't work for you. And that's what I looked at. And I think that's why we all respect each other and why we've all connected, is because we have this kind of, we have some type of moral compass.
But I lose my moral high ground when I then say, and then I saw the Hodinkee.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know,
but
thing...
it wouldn't have been made that way.
No, but also, Andrew,
I couldn't have slept.
You wouldn't be where you are today if you'd done that. No. And you wouldn't be where you are today. Look, I look at the past and yes, I would love to have done that. I look at that and think, I regret, but I don't, because it's putting me in the seat today. Because if I'd gone down another path, I wouldn't be sitting with you guys. I wouldn't be learning.
I know.
You know, the thing is, if you think of the four of us together, we've all learned something new. And so that for me is one of the great things. I think this is camaraderie, this is friendship, this is the big thing.
This is therapy, this is what we do.
This has been deep. This has been, it's been nice. Learning your stories.
I like your final point. Like, you wouldn't be here if you'd have taken the money.
No, and George has summarised it perfectly. It's all vanity versus sanity, and the sanity has prevailed. And we have our moral compass, and this is probably, like you said, this is probably why we connect.
Yeah.
BYOI.
Bring your own independent.
Yes. What do we got?
So I'm bringing Anne Ordain as my own independent. My own independent? It's their independent. But I'm going to bring it as the independent that I'm going to represent today. As a fellow Glaswegian, I might not sound like it, but I do. No, I'm not really Glaswegian, am I? I don't know where I'm from. But Anne Ordain make enamel dials.
You live in Glasgow.
I do live. Well,
legit.
Well,
sorry, George.
Well, thank you very much for almost destroying me.
Oh boy, the secret cupboard.
Wow. Right, let's get.
I like Anne Ordain. I think it's the case design, the dials. I think they've just
look at that.
Proper artisanship.
These guys, yeah.
This front image just sums up Anordain.
That's a great
perfectly.
first image.
These guys were a very small outfit in Glasgow making enamel dials, and these guys make enamel dials from scratch. And I've been to their workshop, and it's quite amazing. It looks like some mad scientist's place. You've got all of these powders. A lot of the powders look white. There's like no colour, or there is a tinge. And then you bake these enamel dials, and they turn into these incredible colours.
Iridescent colours.
And it's. I mean, getting textures like this in enamel, you don't know how it's going to fire like this. And this is what Anordain specialise in. And not only do they have gorgeous colours, but they have some awesome case. I guess you can call them designs, although they're quite traditional cases.
So for
It
me, this
almost
is the
looks
one
like
I
an
love.
emerald, like a jewel.
Yeah,
you know,
this is the one. This is the one. I just honestly,
Yeah.
when I look at dials, these are guys that you have to bow down to and go, I freaking love their dials.
And look, there are some Grandfur producers in the game that are next level, but there's just something, and I'm not going to say rustic in any sort of hierarchical way. This is no less artistic than a Grand Seiko Grandfur enamel dial, but it just shows how personal this art form is, how you can do it in so many different ways, and yet the result is always, it connects to something human because it doesn't look machine made.
Exactly, and the great thing about this, I guess technically Anordain are a micro brand, but they aren't a micro brand buying a generic case, generic hands. These hands are made for them. This case is their case. They have their in-house watchmakers putting all of this stuff together for them. And the thing that I love about this is their product is the enamel dial, and they let it scream. I love how they have their tiny logo. Most watch brands say, "Oh, look, this is us," and Anordain say, "No,
They don't,
the dial,
skewer the dial.
the dial is us,
Yeah.
and we're just going to put a little touch at the top."
But do you know, I like that how people are being more creative. You know, we talked about Studio Underdog when he put it on the second. I love what Anordain's done. I think. Honestly, this is a brand that you have to look out for. You have to know about if you're wanting something different. Look, that dial alone, it looks like it should be out of a Marvel movie.
No, it doesn't.
You know, it
It's
looks
iridescent.
It looks like something.
Like it's radioactive.
Yeah, and you know, you've been there. This is where
Well
I'm
done,
jealous
Adrian.
of journalists
Glad you did.
because you get to go and see those guys.
Yeah.
You know, if I come and knock on the door, it's kind of like F off. You know, it's like you're not learning arson.
Yeah, spam for it again.
Yeah, you know,
What
it's
does the wee man want?
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly.
Is that your attempt at Scott?
That wasn't bad. I'm Scottish.
That's terrible. Guys, I've really enjoyed this episode. But personally, I've enjoyed sharing my story and getting my stuff off my chest. I've enjoyed learning more about you guys, and I appreciate you sharing your challenges and journeys as well.
I'm just glad it led here. That's a beautiful way to close out, George.
Yeah.
Because anything had been different. Like it's that, you know, you go back and change one thing in history, everything would be
sliding
different.
doors.
Yeah. No, it's a great place to land.
Nailed it. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe because it helps us leverage power when we're talking to brands and getting information ahead of time. We want power. And we want power. Yeah, we've got egos to feed. He's got egos to feed. Guys, hit subscribe down there. Hit the little bell icon to get notifications when we drop new content, which we do every week. Hit the like button if you like this content, and that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.